CEO at Impel, Devin Daly. We're excited to have you on the show. Welcome, Devin.
Excited to be here. Thanks for having me, gents.
Devin, it's interesting because we did an industry spotlight a couple of months ago with your CPO, Chief Product Officer, Matt Mullenberg, actually at Ziegler Studios in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And then Yuri, who's the Chief Technology Officer from Fox Motors, also joined. And it was fascinating to learn about this product that's Impel. So what I want to ask you first before we have you share a little bit about you is what's new in AI June of 2025 that we in the auto industry should be keeping our eyes open for, as quickly moving as AI is, Devin?
Yeah, I was going to start there, right? AI is moving at a blistering pace. It seems like, every week there's a new release, a new model, a new use case. A couple things that we're seeing in auto in particular. One is the rise of retrieval augmented generation systems, or RAG systems, if you will. What that does for an auto dealer is really allows them to personalize their AI to perhaps have a Southern accent if they're in the South, or to speak to that dealer's particular strategies. For example, if they're a no haggle, no negotiation type of store. And really, you can then over time customize that AI to respond in the way that your dealer principal would handle a customer, for example. And so that's one big advancement we're seeing. And again, that applies to dealers, but also to manufacturers. So we're seeing OEMs come to us and make this realization or have this revelation that they spend a huge amount of money and investment on brand, and creating this elevated luxury brand experience. But a lot of times the actual execution of that brand at the tier 3 level and the communications that are going to consumers are very brand non-compliant, not abiding by mystery shops. And so we're starting to work with OEMs to build out these RAG knowledge bases, if you will, that get cascaded down to tier 3 dealerships to really kind of ensure compliance. So again, I think the advent of those RAG systems is one. Second is really the rise of agentic AI, which is, a term that's been bandied about, and, Salesforce has gone all in on agentic AI. And really what agentic means is it's handling tasks sort of beginning to end. So instead of surfacing a recommendation to a human, it's actually completing a task on its own. An example that we've seen at Impel is what we call agentic lead journeys, which essentially allows a dealership to set an objective or theme by lead type and have the AI build out an entire sort of conversational flow to achieve that objective. An example of that would be you have very different objectives for a KBB instant cash offer lead than you do for a Costco lead, than you do for a True Car lead. And you can set up each of those themes by lead type. And again, the AI will build out a flow that really optimizes for that objective.
So, Devin, before we go into your company, and telling us a little bit about this, you heard our industry pulse and some of the statistics behind how dealers are implementing AI into sales and service. Service, it appears, according to our own survey, it's lagging. And it also appears like dealers are using some tools that just flat out aren't working, or they don't understand, in the hopes that, it'll somehow end up working. What do you make of that? Like, what do you make of AI and automotive, and just part of it feels messy somehow?
Yeah, I'd say no doubt, right? I mean, generative AI, really the advent of Gen AI was November 2022 when OpenAI released ChatGPT. And, many are equating that technology trigger to be on the same magnitude as, the internet or the mobile device, for example. And so what we've seen is definitely a proliferation of small kind of point solution folks that come in that only handle one very small facet of the consumer journey. And so there's lots of products out there that might just do website chat or might just do service outreach. To your point, dealerships already have a myriad of tools that don't communicate with each other, that create a broken customer experience, that create, additional manual human work at the store, messages coming in from different phone numbers, different email addresses, just really a hodgepodge of vendors. And so, it's our firm belief, the reason that it feels so messy is there's a need for one unified AI system that can manage that entire life cycle. So, whether that's chatting on the website, or somebody that submits a lead, or somebody that's, buying F&I products post-purchase or accessories, or, having that same AI reaching out for service, then eventually doing vehicle acquisition. And what we find is, by having one centralized AI brain, not only do you remove the messiness that you guys found in your surveys, but you're really able to share insights about that consumer across all of those different touch points, which results in
Wow.
a significantly better customer experience and really maximizes lifetime value of a consumer.
So what's your solution for that? Like how would you to a dealer listening to you right now saying, "Hey, I like the idea of AI. I see the benefit because I was astounded by ChatGPT like everyone else was several years ago and I've seen how quickly it's evolved. But like I've got 20 different vendors coming in trying to sell me an AI tool and everybody's got their own shtick, right? Some are good, some are not. You talk about one that controls kind of everything. What's your solution to Impel on that?
That's it, right? It's the industry's only, kind of platform for full consumer lifecycle management using AI. So again, having that one AI operating system, right? And like to your point, a lot of times dealers will plug in a tool and it'll just create another dashboard they have to log into, another set of data that doesn't reconcile with anything else. And that's fundamentally the wrong approach, right? Our thesis has been going in that AI can be that unifying layer to bring together, right? We know a lot of times there's separation of church and state in a dealership where, there's great opportunities to acquire vehicles out of the service drive, but the service guy doesn't talk to the, used vehicle manager, for example. AI can be that unifying layer to finally kind of harmonize. But again, you need one singular platform that manages that entire consumer lifecycle. And so that's exactly what we do is, one platform that manages all channels from chat to SMS to email to telephony across all touch points, from variable ops to fixed ops to F&I to accessory to vehicle acquisition. What we've recently added with our acquisition of Outsell is actually having that same AI brain that manages all automated marketing along with conversational AI. So, historically, if you sent out a fixed ops marketing offer for, tire rotation on a Tuesday, you would want your service BDC to ideally call that person on Wednesday and reference the offer.
Yes.
We all know the
Yes.
service BDC is way too busy to even answer inbound calls. And so there's no chance they're going to be doing that. With AI, you can finally have that sort of, nirvana state of having this coordinated approach, two-tiered approach. Marketing piece goes out, VIP concierge experience texts that person referencing the offer. And so
Wow.
that is sort of the vision and what we've delivered at Impel is the only sort of full platform for lifecycle management using AI.
So Jason Hamilton online says that was a big research point from CDG. Integrations of multiple products is a struggle. And by the way, for anybody thinking like we did our data point and then we brought you in as a setup, and that was purely coincidental. And it is fascinating that our research showed that all these different disparate systems just don't play well together. And in fact, in our auto group, I've shared on this show before, I went in and got more involved at one store where a GM had bought an AI tool, plugged it into the BDC, and it was creating all these duplicate leads. And then I found that the BDC managers were actually trying to compete against the AI bot because they were threatened for their own job, which is just insanity. Like it makes no sense, right? I think the first step for any great AI tool is everybody on the team has to understand what it's doing, how it's doing, and how everyone benefits, how it enhances the human element of it. And then to your point, it's kind of a cool idea of having one tool that brings it all together and make sure everybody's singing off the same hymnal or working off the same page, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. And wanted to come back to what your study found around fixed ops. Like we
Yeah.
couldn't agree more. The opportunity in fixed ops is massive, right? If you think about it, a
Tell us
DMS,
about it. Yeah.
yeah, the average dealer's DMS has probably whatever, 10,000 records. And if you think about all of the touch points that are required to optimize that, service retention life cycle, it's probably 50 touch points per year between oil change, pit stop, first service, next service, state inspection in those states that it's applicable. There is no way when you start to do the algebra of 5,000 DMS records, 50 touch points per year. There is no way that can be done using human beings. It is a perfect opportunity for AI to go after those folks, maintain that bond of service loyalty, keep them coming back into your store, being proactive. What we found is, dealerships that are doing that are seeing really significant improvements in CSI and TLE for Toyota stores that are out there rates by, again, having that proactive experience. And candidly, when we first got into fixed ops, right, we acquired a business in November 2022, actually the same month that OpenAI released ChatGPT. We thought consumers may be annoyed by this kind of persistent service follow-up. In fact, it's the opposite. They love it. They view it as like their VIP concierge, almost like, their Ralph Lauren rep would text them when they get new fabrics for a suit in or whatever, constantly reminding them. We're actually finding a lot of times consumers apologize to the AI. Hey, sorry I didn't respond to you. I was away.
Oh,
I've been
wow.
putting that off. Thank you so much for the persistence. And, I joke all the time. I drive a Land Rover, one of the least reliable vehicles, right? I wish my dealership had our AI product to remind me that I was coming up on routine
Yeah.
maintenance. So, yeah, the
Well,
opportunity in fixed ops is massive, and there's just inarguable, demonstrable kind of ROI there, particularly around lost customers. So no, the opportunity there is huge.
so your AI and services involved in both texting and email messaging, but also voice AI, right?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing voice right now. We're in pilot on
What?
voice, and yeah, there's a big opportunity there. I think you've had guests on. We all know it's a big problem in service, right? 60% of service calls go unanswered. And again, you think about how bad that is for the consumer, right? They make their second largest purchase of their life, buying a luxury good, fall in love with their sales rep, and they call in for the first time and they can't get an answer, right? I mean, it's just a horrible customer experience. And voice AI can solve some of that, but a lot of the solutions out there in our mind are failing. Most of them only really solve for around the 10% of calls that go down the, as we call it in the AI world, the happy path of, I want to schedule an appointment for 10 a.m. next Tuesday. Most of them can't handle status updates. They can't do diagnosis. They can't really do anything with non-routine maintenance. And so, in our view and our approach, again, is one brain across all channels. And so we believe it's critical to have a multi-channel approach to solving this problem. That, again, if you proactively text somebody, you're preempting them having to make an inbound phone call, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Second is
Yeah.
is really removing friction in scheduling, right? A huge number of that influx of service calls are people that try to use the online service scheduler, but these systems are difficult for consumers and have 80% abandonment rates. Again, if you can use AI to schedule conversationally, you can reduce that number of inbound calls. Then for those that do call, of course, you need a voice AI solution, but you need a multi-channel approach. Some may want a text back, which allows, when they call in, if they don't answer, they may get a text back. That allows the dealership to triage that and pick it up, kind of asynchronously at their time instead of just the phones ringing off the hook. Last thing I would say is, over time, we believe, again, right now, most of the solutions out there only solve that happy path use case of, I want an appointment next Tuesday at 10. But over time, AI can be trained to understand common repairs and to understand the Pareto principle that 80% of maintenance issues are from 20% of common repairs. And the AI can start to be taught that, in the rear axle, if a consumer calls in and they're claiming there's clunking in the rear axle of a 10-year-old F-150, it's likely this problem. And getting to that will really allow us to automate a significant majority of the inbound phone calls that today, again, the solutions are failing to really help with.
Yuli, you had a question, then we'll go to some comments.
Sure. Just a quick question operationally. I'm familiar with Impel when you guys rolled out. Obviously, it's evolved a lot more since I had signed it at one of the dealers I was running. As far as service is concerned, is the goal to have the AI handle even the outbound for like the service advisor reaching out, updating the customer on the MPI?
Yeah, I mean, that's not something that we do today, but I mean, that would make sense, right? If you think about it, our AI phone number is sort of the authoritative number in the service drive, right? Where that a lot of consumers will save the number of the AI. They will proactively text it when they have an issue, kind of thing. And, if you think about it, our AI number is the one that's texting them to tell them they're likely due for service, texting them to follow up for that service, setting the appointment with them, reminding them of the appointment. So, yeah, it would be very natural that over time, we handle that what we call kind of in-drive communication. One other comment I just wanted to make while we're on service is, there's also a huge opportunity. All of the AI discussion we've had today has been what I would call kind of conversational AI or automating consumer communications. There's also a big opportunity to use AI to do more sophisticated bay loading in the service drive, right? There's kind of two main problems in fixed ops today in terms of, how dealerships bay load. One is the vast majority of stores, I'm sure this resonates, between opening and the next 2 hours, they're really busy. They're log jammed during that period. Then if you go in at 3 or 4 o'clock, it's typically crickets and there's nobody there, kind of thing. AI can be used to more evenly spread jobs across the entire opening hours of a dealership. Second is, many dealership fixed ops departments operate with a very analog, old school rule of thumb of, if I'm fully staffed, I can only take 50 cars today, for example. Well, 50 cars, if it's all brand new vehicle oil changes, is very different. And that drive would be very underutilized versus if it's 50 cars that are all 10-year-old vehicles where we're going to discover a lot of incremental work would be very overutilized. And so AI can be used to be a lot more thoughtful to basically optimally load the service bay over time.
In-
Again, a great use
Increase
case.
efficiency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Who
Very
who
cool.
when you think about dealers out there that are really forward thinking and doing a great job at implementing this holistically across the entire dealer operation, who comes to mind that you could share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we work with the vast majority of the big public. So 8 of the 10 big publics, are our customers. Most of
Yeah.
them across all of their locations. The Rorman Automotive Group is a great, customer of ours that embraces our fulsome stack of having that one AI brain managing not only automated marketing, but also conversational AI. And, we're seeing groups that are adopting this concept we're referring to as an AI operating system, which again is that singular brain
Yeah.
managing the entire life cycle. We're finding that they're reporting record Mays, heading into record Junes. Their closing rates in variable ops are roughly double the industry average. So, there's definitely huge and demonstrable upside. AI is a great way to offload menial, repetitive tasks to allow your high performers to focus on high leverage and high value activities.
Well, Devin Daly, CEO at Impel, we appreciate you being on the show, sharing your perspectives and kind of giving us a glimpse into today and a little bit down the road into the future. Appreciate you being on the show, sharing your perspectives with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, gents. Have a great weekend.